Welcome everybody to episode 44 of the Overwatchers. I'm ChanmanV, and joining me today is Patrick is back from. Were you on vacation last week or last couple weeks ago? Yeah.
Last episode I was in St. Petersburg actually, spending a little bit of time in Russia with my
Oh, nice.
Russophile wife. So that was nice. It was
Wife?
Yeah, she loves Russia.
Oh, okay.
That's
okay.
how you say it.
Wow, I've never heard
Think
that
so?
term before. That's cool. That's pretty cool.
Francophile, Anglophile, Americophile. I don't know.
Wow.
Well, she loves Russia, and we've been there a few times. And yeah, it was fun. It's a very interesting city, lots of things to see. And it was a nice hotel because the ruble is so low. So it was a nice week.
Oh,
so that
wow.
was cool.
So, yeah, 5-star hotels for $50. Is that
Basically, yeah.
something like that. Well, it's great to have you back, man. And one of these days, I got to make it to St. Petersburg. I've never been to Russia or Mother Russia.
Yeah,
Not my
it's
mother.
an interesting,
Russia,
interesting place for sure.
yeah.
And Garrett isn't here.
No,
I'm like,
he is
so
not.
he was like, oh, my internet's not working really well. It's not cooperating, and so, but we know the truth. He's like, he managed to get a Nintendo Switch from somewhere probably, and he's like sneakily away playing with his Switch. It's like, oh, my internet I can't host the show. It's not working. Oh, so terrible. So it's fine. Just go enjoy Zelda. I mean, I hope he got a Switch, because if he isn't, this is just going to infuriate him even more that he didn't get one.
I think he did get one, but he had to drive like 30 miles or something like that to go and get one. So, but we've all been there. If he is, which I don't know if he is or not, but we've all called in sick days whenever consoles have come out. You can admit it. You've called in sick before.
Yeah, of course. I've seen a fun tweet from a comedian here in France who was basically tweeting someone seeing another person resume at an interview saying, "Oh, I see you have a big hole in your resume for 2017. what happened?" And he's like, "Zelda."
Zelda. Oh,
right,
wow.
Of course.
Wow, he got hired immediately. He got hired absolutely immediately. If I heard that.
That's a plus right there.
Exactly.
But yeah, lots of stuff happening in Overwatch as well. I mean, Orisa has been released on the PTR. We've had surprising nerfs for a number of characters. Bastion's rework went live, and basically the world imploded. Bastion noted. Bunch of stuff. Season 4 has started. Season 3 is over. So there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just in the last few days, it wasn't even like we've got 2 weeks worth. I think we've had like 2 weeks worth in 3 days or 4 days. So it's going to be amazing. Yeah. Lots going on actually in esports too. But before we get started, why don't we shout out to our sponsor?
Dot Game is our sponsor for the show. You've heard us talk about them a number of times, and you know what they are. It's a domain that is available everywhere domains are sold. You can go to any, the usual GoDaddy, web.com, etc., etc. Or, just go to get.game and you get your .game domain. It's a little bit more expensive than the usual domains because they want to foster a little bit of exclusivity and order on that thing. So when you get the domain, you know that it's going to be well represented. And if you have an idea for something that has to do with gaming, what better domain than .game?
That's right.
That almost rhymes.
That's right. And they were nice enough to give us one too. And have you picked your domain name yet?
No, I've been super busy with personal stuff, so I haven't really done that. But did you get yours?
No, I'm still deciding. Like my golden gun. I can't pick yet. I've literally been sitting on it for the last week, and I'm like, what should it be? I want to make it perfect. So, yeah, I might need another week to decide. But it was really awesome of them to give us one.
Yeah. But so basically that's the thing. If you have, everyone's always hunting for .com, whatever, and they're all taken, .game might be the solution for you. So if it is, just go to get.game and you get your domain, and we thank them for their support of Overwatchers.
Yes, they are awesome. Okay, so why don't we get into some of the news now? So we should just start with Orisa. Orisa on PTR.
I
Sound good?
Yeah, I think so. It's the big thing, right? Everyone's always waiting for a new character,
Yep.
and we got Orisa. She wasn't what we expected.
Well, she was and she wasn't. So she was in the fact that she's a tank, and a lot of the
Right.
community was trying to theorize or guess that she was an Omnic, somebody that Effie, the character they introduced, made, because since she was really good at robotics, and no way a child would be killed in Overwatch, so it couldn't be her. It had to be something, like most likely something she made. So all of that part was true. But I think
That's
her
true. It's just
ability
not.
is,
It's not Doomfist, but that's
yeah.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's not Doomfist. Yeah, true. Doomfist is 25.
Yeah. Most
Probably.
likely.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a pleasant surprise. I feel like Arista just came out all of a sudden. Like, I caught a little wind of it, and then I asked Kiki, and she's like, "Oh, 30-minute warning," or something like that. I'm like, "What?" And then all of a sudden, yeah, she's out on the PTR, and we
Yeah.
all got a chance to try her out. So, have you played her much?
I have. Well, not much. I have a
Mhm.
little bit because we were talking about this before the show. Even now, basically, when you try to go and play Orisa in quick play,
Yeah.
you have to be really lucky to get her. Obviously, because everyone's trying her. Maybe now with the different nerfs and buffs to other characters, she's going to be a little bit more available.
Yeah.
But the only way to play her reliably was to go to the no limit arcade mode, which means everyone's playing Orisa, which is really not a good way to evaluate how she plays. But maybe, I mean, I'm sure everyone listening to this knows what she does and her abilities, but do you want to go over
Yeah,
them
we
really
should list it
quickly
out real
just for
quick.
the stragglers?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should list it out. So Arissa is a tank, and developers, and Jeff Kaplan in a developers update even said that they were really trying to get a new tank out, maybe even one that possibly replaces Reinhardt in a lot of different compositions, or just more of a main tank, right?
Yeah, at least
And
competes with Reinhardt for
yeah,
the position of main tank. I
yeah,
think is their idea.
yeah, exactly. So Arissa has for her weapon, it's a gun. It's very plasma gun like. If you ever played Quake, if you haven't played Quake, then it's kind of like a bunny blaster mixed with, I don't know, what would you say, like a bunny blaster, maybe a tiny bit of Bastion turret, kind of a combination of that. It.
Yeah, it's a mix
Mhm.
between that and yeah, I guess the Buddy Blaster. The
Mhm.
it's also it's the clip is so big, although it's been reduced
Yeah,
now a little
it's big.
bit, but
Mhm.
it's so large that it feels almost like Diva's the mech gun because it feels like you can fire forever.
Yeah, the
And
clip.
yes, it's projectiles, so the bullets have a little bit of travel time, so it's not exactly the same thing. But yeah, the clip was brought down from 200 to 150. It's still massive, though. You can fire for a long time without worrying about reloading.
Yeah, in fact, I for a while I thought it was infinite. I didn't actually even realize until I actually had to look down and like, oh, okay, yeah, we actually have a clip here. But no, that's
Yeah.
that's her main gun. So that's the left click. For right click, it's one of her very interesting abilities. It's I forget the actual name of it, but it's basically she
Well,
throws
let's
out.
go to the side.
Yeah, let me go to the side. While you're doing that, I'll just describe it. It's basically a Symmetra ball. Like she throws out a Symmetra ball, and it becomes like a vacuum as it's going, as it's traveling. So anything that's, I believe that's like 6 to 8 feet or left and right of it, she'll basically pull you guys into the ball, and then at the very end of the ball, it explodes. So there's like a, even bigger vacuum at the
So
end of it.
no, so what happens is it slows people. It doesn't actually draw them
Oh, I
in
thought it draws them
initially.
in. Oh, the
No,
last part,
yeah.
the last part pulls them in, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, the last
So
part
you
pulls them
can
in.
decide when you right click, again, you detonate what's the name? I'm clicking on it, but my internet is slow. It's like Garrett's. Um, yeah, so you can detonate it. And at that point, it's halt. I guess it's halt. At that point, it pulls everyone
Yeah.
into a mini graviton surge basically for half a second or something like that, but it actually repositions everyone, and then it ends. But the halt is a really different kind of ability from what we've seen. So it slows and then it relocates.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the unique abilities that she has, and we can come, we can talk about maybe what types of characters might be good with it. And then she has, of course, she's a tank, right? So she has a wall that's it's more of a projected wall, like a Winston shield, but it's like a Mei wall and a Winston shield mixed together. So
Hmm.
it's not like Reinhardt where he can just kind of move it up and down and it's connected to him. She has to actually throw it out there, but it's a really powerful wall. It has like a ton of hit points on it, but you have to position around it. And then her other ability is her E, which is
Fortify.
yeah, fortify, which ends up giving her basically makes her immune to everything. So she can't be CC'd at all. Anything I don't know if it's every single one, but it's almost every single one. At least when they were listing it out, it was the main ones. So she can't be frozen. Yeah. She can't be knocked to the ground or anything like that. Basically, I don't know if she could be hooked and stuff like that too. But anything where you would normally associate with like crowd control ults and things like that, she's basically immune to whenever she does that. And then her ultimate ability is this damage boosting ability where she throws out this projectile that ends up landing on the ground and creating these little turrets or something that has lightning bolts that kind of go across and creates this perimeter of damage boost. So it's
basically as if
it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's kind of a drum that she puts on the ground, and you have some mercy buff beams that go out to every character that's in the area. Pretty large area,
yeah,
actually.
It's a very large area.
Yeah, and the buff is much higher than Mercy's buff. It's I can't remember how much exactly, but it's like 150 or 200%. It's significant. Like, it makes your team incredibly powerful, and I think it was actually brought down. The cost. Yeah, the cost has been increased a little bit because it was already a little bit too powerful in the latest PTR patch. So yeah, overall she feels like definitely a tank, an anchor tank is the way they described it in the developer update. What do you think? How do you think she plays? How important do you think she's going to be? Is she actually going to rival Reinhardt for that main tank spot?
For me, I don't think anybody can rival Reinhardt for that main tank spot, just because I think Reinhardt is really strong, and I main Reinhardt. Almost every part about Reinhardt, and we don't really talk about it much as a community, but every part of Reinhardt is very, very powerful. His charge almost is an instant kill. For about at least half of the heroes, his shield is connected to him, and he can actually angle his shield upwards. Against air heroes like Pharah. His hammer is super powerful. His fire strike's powerful. So it's I think because of that, like, I don't think it's just very, very difficult. And Orisa, for me, doesn't even feel like she would even be a main tank. More so, she feels more like a hybrid utility tank. Outside of that big shield, I think everything else is very, very utility. And something that kind of makes the rest of your team better, just buffs the rest of your team. I feel more like that when it comes to Orisa. So I don't think she replaces. So you don't think? Yeah, I think she's an off tank.
Really? Mm-hmm. Because she has, I guess, if we look at her tanky abilities, she has a lot of health. She has the barrier, and she has the fortify ability that allows her to sustain heavier damage than most characters. She's more, you're saying she's an off tank, but I wouldn't put her in the same category as someone like Roadhog or Winston. Is she? Do you think she don't you think she can tank better than those?
She doesn't have the same role as that. She's definitely a tank that will be sticking to the Reinhardt, sticking to the payload. More in that way. I guess she is somewhat anchor because she's always going to be some type of foundation, or she'll always be with the main group. But in terms of being that anchor, damage absorber and things like that. I just feel like her shield being static, and the fact that she's pretty slow too, and her shield doesn't move with her. Like once she throws on the shield, you just have to kind of stick next to the shield, kind of like Winston. And it doesn't really make her that much of a foundational point for your team. Just by herself. Like you could never run Orisa by herself, as a tank. And I think maybe you could run her with the Zarya, like maybe. But my experience with her is that she's surprisingly squishy. Like if you're not very careful with her, unlike Reinhardt, I could just run out there and I just put my shield up and I'm pretty safe. You know what I mean? Like I could be in terrible position with Reinhardt and still be fine. Still be able to back all the way up to my healers and things like that. With Orisa, I feel like if you just move just a little bit to the right of the shield, then you're getting popped by everything. Like, Zen's getting a buff now, but you could get discorded by Zen, even just in the current patch, or hit by Pharahs or Junkrats and anything like that. So
you don't think that she can, between her shield and her fortify, and maybe even with her halt, she can manage to control the battlefield enough that she's going to be a really desirable tank? I mean, I guess from what you're saying, the way I look at it is she possibly could, but it's kind of the same problem as we have with Sombra, which is she could go ahead and do a lot of damage and sneak around and do all the things, but it takes so much effort and so much know-how that most people are just going to think, well, F that. I'm just going to play someone that does all of this more simply. And I think it's more the case for Sombra, but it feels like what you're saying is Orisa does a lot of things well, but Reinhardt is such the quintessential tank that if you want the quintessential tank, you're just going to take Reinhardt and not bother with someone else.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about like comparing the two, and like if you're going to interchange Reinhardt, then yeah, I don't think Orisa is an option for that. But I do think Orisa is a very good option for things, just right off the bat. I could be totally wrong, but I'm pretty. It feels like as a triple tank, she would be pretty good. Like I could see, because her abilities are very, very team oriented. Like the damage boost the entire team. Even the little graviton surge, for maybe Widowmakers and folks that can that can snipe after you've pulled them away from the from hiding from around the walls and things like that. There's a lot of different. I think there's a lot of abilities that actually make your teammates better that Orisa has. That's kind of why I called her a utility character, more so than just your normal anchor tank like a Reinhardt. So I think she'll have a place. It's just still a little bit unclear. Just you really have to see people play, and with these other nerfs too, it's going to be tough to see even tanks being played and how they're going to be played with Zen's Discord being so strong, and we'll talk about it in a second. But but overall, I think she's a really cool character. It's just one of those things where you never know until we actually have her in a production atmosphere and people are playing for real and really having real healers and things like that. Because even when I play quick play right now, nobody plays Reinhardt, so it's like okay, nobody plays Reinhardt, then I have to be the anchor tank, and it's not good whenever I do that.
Right.
There's a lot of shields, though. There's a lot of shields on the map, which is kind of crazy.
It does feel like, we're kind of encroaching on the next topic, but with Winston's change and because her shield has a relatively low cooldown. If you manage it well, it can be up a lot of the time. And then Winston, and I could see her making two tanks work without Reinhardt a little bit better than she's not going to be the only tank maybe in the game, but maybe if you have two tanks, it can be a little bit more viable than it has been before, because now it was like if you go 2 or 3 tanks, you have to have Reinhardt and another one. With her, I could see her becoming a character that makes two tanks without Reinhardt possible. She might not be really viable in a one tank scenario, but maybe she'll enable the use of no Reinhardt in 2 or 3 tank scenarios. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it could be possible, especially at the higher levels. I feel like she is a
Mhm.
higher skill cap tank. Kind of like what they did
Yes.
with Ana. I feel like it's the same thing. It's just I don't know if she's quite that Reinhardt replacement, because Reinhardt's just so good. Period. No matter what skill level you're at, that the
Mm.
pros will play it. Will play it. But I think that Ursa does have aspects where like the better you are at Overwatch, the better or more powerful Orisa is. So I think you're right. I mean, I think maybe it's possible to play triple tank without a Reinhardt, right? And the combination
Mm.
of all, like you said, all those different shields and matrices together, essentially, protect you against a lot of the ults and a lot of the snipers and things like that. That Reinhardt basically does as a single character.
Yeah,
Uh,
because she does feel like, her shields have a low cooldown, and her
yeah.
fortify makes her not quite, but almost a little bit like Zarya's bubble, where she can get
Mm-hmm.
in front of things a little bit and be that center of attention that the whole enemy team is going to have to look at when she's in the middle of the front line, in front of the front line.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, yes, as you said, it's really hard to evaluate now because the PTR environment, especially for a new tank, is not going to be conducive to a proper evaluation of what she is, what she brings to the game. But yeah, she's I wouldn't say she's a really exciting character. The little bit I played her, I wasn't super enthusiastic about playing her. It was, oh, okay, she works like this and she has this ability. But in this game, I've learned that I shouldn't pass judgment on how much I like a character rather than another, because every time I've said, oh, this one I don't really like, once I've gotten into it, I found the joy of that character's kit and started really enjoying them. So I
Yeah.
think it might be the case for her. It's just initially it's not like, oh my God,
Well,
Orisa.
she doesn't introduce anything new. She's just a combination of a bunch of existing mechanics that are in the game right now. Like
Mm,
she's kind of a combo of Zarya and I would say, like I said, May Winston kind of shield, and you know what I mean. Like all her abilities are existent. Like I guess
right,
the
right.
immunity may be a little different, but then immunity we have with like Zenyatta too, right? So,
Mm,
yeah, nothing like Ana that had like a grenade boost that, that just disabled healing for people, and you were snipe healing and things like that.
right.
I mean, that's like totally that was brand new with a character like that. So maybe that's why. Maybe
Mhm.
that's why it's not doesn't feel as exciting. But I think it's cool. I think that adding a new tank, it will be really really nice, given that we've had the same tanks for well ever since Diva, right? So it's been over a year now since they introduced Diva.
Yeah.
So it's nice, definitely good to have a new character, and the backstory for the character is cool too. Like I like how we haven't even talked about that at all. Just the whole
Yeah.
Fe building. He's so Orisa is an OR-15 that's been modified.
Modified
Hmm.
by Effie. Yeah.
Yeah,
She and or for those who haven't realized, Orisa is OR 15,
yeah, that's right.
IS.
That's right.
Um
A.
and yeah, exactly. You just add an A. But yeah, I like the character's backstory, especially since, I mean, listeners, longtime listeners will expect this, but the fact that she's a female character, and we've gotten many of them, and I think that's great. But a female character also, as I think Jeff said this, who isn't just she's a different type of body slash monster slash robot in the way that we have for male characters. You'll have the Winstons and the Roadhogs and all these weird things, and usually for female characters it's not as common in games to have things like that. So I think that's
Okay.
a cool aspect of it. I don't love the design. I have to be honest. I don't think she doesn't strike me as something that looks cool. But she's interesting. Overall, I
She looks
think
like a bug.
it's
She looks kind of like a
she
bug,
looks like a
right?
kind of weird centaur.
Yeah, like a bug
Well,
centaur or
obviously,
something.
yeah,
Yeah,
bug centaur, yeah, and the fact that Effie made her, and the fact that she's a new character in the Overwatch world, right? She was just created now.
yeah,
She, unlike all of the other characters that were at some point part of the Overwatch team, or that have existed in that world as heroes for a long time, Orisa is a character that is introduced in contemporary Overwatch timeline. So that's cool as well. And there were hints about Doomfist as well. He performed the attack on the Numbani airport, and he's been mentioned a couple of times, so we can see he's probably going to
yeah.
be arriving fairly
Very soon.
soon.
Yeah, the
Yeah, but
gloves
yeah, no,
missing.
I think
The
I think
gloves
it's good.
missing too from the actual
Yeah.
payload on Numbani too. So yeah.
Oh, is it now on the map? It's actually they've implemented the change.
Well, it's the yeah. So the or in product. I don't think it's out in production quite yet, but
I mean, on
um,
PTR.
yeah,
Yeah.
PTR. Well, you can see the shattered glass. You know where there used to be a
Okay.
Doomfist on the
Yeah, yeah,
payload.
yeah.
Now it's like
Mhm.
broken glass. It's missing. And then
Oh,
of
so
course,
it's not just data mined thing, because initially it was just data mined and it wasn't in the actual map, but
no,
maybe it's
it's on there
changed.
now. Yeah, it's definitely
Okay.
gone now. So
So what are you escorting? You're like
I
just,
don't
oh
know.
well, the gauntlet isn't here, but whatever. We'll just push the cart. That's what we do.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if Doomfist is 25. Um,
Oh yeah, he has to be. I'm pretty
you
sure
think
he
so?
will be.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, I
that'll
think so.
definitely be
But
great. Hopefully, it comes soon too. I'd like to see more than what 3 characters a year. It'd be nice to get a few
I
more.
think you're. Yeah, I think you're gonna be disappointed. I
Oh,
don't think
really? Come
Doomfist is
on,
gonna arrive until June,
BlizzCon?
July
Okay, no,
minimum.
okay, June, July. All right.
Yeah, something like that.
At least it's not BlizzCon.
But yeah, so we'll maybe another one for BlizzCon.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll see what happens with Orisa once she's. But it's the first time I think that we have no idea how big an influence she's going to be on the gameplay and on the meta. Um, because I guess it's because she's a tank. It's impossible to properly evaluate her impact until she's actually on the live game, I think.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like I wouldn't say it's exactly like Sombra because Sombra, the thing with Sombra is that her role is one that people will speculate about, right? Like they're not sure how she fits in, and she's one that you have to build around too. So the changes that you'll
Mm.
see, like, it happen a lot slower, with those type of characters. And I think with Orisa, I think the adoption of Orisa will be pretty slow too. Our tanks right now are just so
Yeah,
strong. They're just so good, and we're all
yeah.
familiar with their roles right now. So yeah, Orisa's, I think will be similar in that approach with Sombra. She's going to require a very special type of composition, and that takes time to actually make it into just the general meta for the game, not just high levels or low levels. So I
Mhm.
wouldn't be surprised if we don't really see Orisa until at least a month after she comes out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And she's going to be staying on the PTR for a while as well. Kaplan mentioned that she's probably going to be staying on PTR longer than other characters. So yeah, we're not going to see her in a live game for a couple of weeks, I guess.
That's good because PTR has been, a lot of people have questioned it for a while. Just I guess what the role of PTR is, and with the most recent Bastion craziness that has gone on in production, a lot of people were wondering, are they really doing that much testing with PTR, given
Right.
that Bastion came out the way he did, and I think most of the community almost instantly, knew that it was going to rock or just really break the meta. Just everybody would be playing Bastion, and then sure enough, like an hour after it comes out, a couple hours after it comes out, we see gifs and clips of just the most absurd ultimates not killing Bastion, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
Hanzo's dragon or it's McCree's Deadeye, just combining Ana boost with the Bastion was breaking the game. So they had to make a change for that.
Yeah, and they did ultimately. I mean, Kaplan did mention that, maybe the outcry is a little bit exaggerated and there's a lot of hyperbole there. But yeah, in the end, they did. Well, it's on the PTR, is it? No, it's
No, it's
live.
actually out
Yeah.
now. So it was on the PTR for
Yeah.
a little bit, but they pretty much put it out like instantly,
Yeah.
and
So it's
thank good
basically 20% less damage
ironclad.
with his passive instead of 35%, which is a significant nerf. Um, but yeah, so did it do the trick? I didn't play enough to. I mean, I didn't play. I didn't have time to play. So it it seems like it's not the main. I guess it is. He's too salt. He's too. Uh, he never dies, so probably that helps. But it seems like it's not enough of a nerf. It almost
Well,
feels that with his healing ability, he would need to not have ironclad at all.
yeah,
but
right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are wondering that too, and I guess we could definitely talk about damage reduction after this, but the additional change was that they're globally you can't go over 50% damage reduction with any boost on top of it. So, like
you're right.
yeah,
You're
and
right.
that's
Yeah.
the big one. That's the one that prevents like ultimates from killing you when on a boost is on it and things like that. So overall, I think we're seeing a lot less Bastions. Like literally, I was seeing Bastion every single game, no matter if people knew how to play it or not. And but I think they rolled out the change so fast that we didn't see it for too long. Like like the crowds weren't rioting quite yet, even though there was a lot of
It
talking
was
on
getting
Reddit.
there.
It was getting there, but I think it was getting there more from people discussing it and actually just thinking about it more so than actually playing it. Everybody getting a chance to really experience the craziness it was. But
Right.
yeah, the Omnic crisis is over, so so I think we're good. 20%, I don't know. It's like at the pro level, it's definitely not that big a deal. Like people aren't playing it at all. And I don't think
Mm.
that
I
he's
don't think. Yeah.
powerful enough to
I
warrant that.
think for the pros, it was never even really a problem. For even when there wasn't the damage reduction, it wasn't a huge problem because you can coordinate and just mow him down. But it
Mm.
was the problem that we had initially when the game first launched with Bastion and Torbjorn. Oh my God, brain fart. And Torbjorn, where it required people's coordination, the entire team to focus on those heroes
Mhm.
to bring them down, and that made the game not very fun for certain
Yeah.
levels. And it seemed like we learned to deal with Bastion and Torbjorn, and now it brought Bastion back in a way that was even more difficult to deal with, and that meant you had to coordinate the entire team. Especially if Bastion was being babysat,
Yeah, maybe sad.
um, babysat, and it really focused the game too much about Bastion at those levels. But I have no doubt that at higher levels it wasn't really the same problem.
Yeah, and I think that's the case now too. I think it does still require, because it's harder to kill him, right? It does require more coordination to kill him. But I think it was broken enough at 35, or I'm almost positive talking to the pros. It would have been played every single game if it wasn't
Oh,
for,
really?
yeah, it wasn't if it wasn't for the quick change, and Apex is actually running on a previous patch, so we didn't even quite get it to the point where all the Korean teams and just the top teams were even getting a chance to show it. But I did see it in Carbon Series, which is more of the North American teams that aren't in Apex, and got a chance to experience a little bit. So definitely people thought it was super super strong, and it would have just destroyed the meta, which I think is really really good right now. And I was really really bummed on the overview when we were talking about when it first came out. Thank goodness they changed it though, and it's better now.
Mhm.
So we were able to keep this really diverse meta that we have right now. So
Cool. Well, so as you said, I guess
yeah,
Omnic crisis
yes,
averted. Excellent.
exactly. The second Omnic crisis. All right, so why don't we talk about some of these PTR nerfs and buffs that they announced 2 days ago? That's actually
Yeah.
out on the PTR right now, and they're some very, very big nerfs, particularly to Ana. Her damage
Yes.
from her biotic rifle has been nerfed from 80 to 60. And then her
25%
yeah, I know.
nerf.
It's a
That's
lot.
significant. Yeah.
Yeah. And then her grenade has gotten even larger of a nerf, too. So her self heal goes from 100 to 50, and then the damage that it does goes from 60 to 30. So that's pretty big. And those of you that don't know the
It's
exact math,
huge.
yeah, those of you who don't know the exact math, it makes a huge difference in her ability to 1v1, heroes that dive her, things like Genji and even, I wouldn't say Winston's. I mean, I wouldn't say tanks that can dive you, but definitely Genjis and Tracers and things like that. She's been able to hold her own. I mean, she might even be better in some cases than some of these other characters, which I've always felt was a bit odd. But for those that do play Ana and rely on that, that is a huge hit to her ability to do that. So they didn't change her healing with her left rifle. So I would say, a lot of the skill, the high skill cap healing is still there, but it's really about, can she live by herself, without help. I think that's where it's changed a bunch.
Which was needed, right?
Yeah, I
Because
think
Anna
so.
would
Yeah.
never die. And as you said, if you were facing a good Anna, she would actually duel you pretty efficiently, which
I
is
know.
infuriating. You're taking the risk to flank and to dive and to go far beyond enemy lines, and you
Mhm.
finally find the Anna that's been annoying you so much, and she's like, actually she has a chance of killing you. It's yeah, it wasn't normal. I'm wondering, I guess it's because they didn't want to nerf her too much during the season, during season 3, but this is a pretty strong statement, I think, that she was she was doing too many things too well, and it feels like they sat on this one until the season ended to not upset people, understandably, to not upset people who had put in the time and effort to learn her. But it feels like a deserved, unexpected nerf. That's the kind of thing I was expecting to see when they, first nerfed her a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, Ana literally had zero weaknesses, and they made
Mm,
some super minor ones. With Diva, I mean, literally almost nothing to be honest. And at that time, we were complaining about Diva and Ana being OP. So they
mm,
obviously gave Diva the treatment, and now yeah, they're circling back around for Ana. And a lot of people are wondering why it's so drastic. Like why nerf her so hard instead of just trying to nerf maybe one ability of hers, or just maybe part of the grenade, or just the rifle, things like that. So I think it is a lot, and I think it's going to drastically change. I think people even, just hearing, the changes to Anna, and then seeing like Zen that got a little bit of a buff, will just naturally herd over to, to Zen, and then there'll be
mm.
probably this behavior in the community where they'll go back to Anna like after a few weeks or a week or two. But I think
Yeah.
initially you'll see people switch off of her right when it gets out to production.
Mm.
This could be released when Orisa gets released. So this could be sitting on PTR a long
Probably,
time,
yeah.
and wouldn't be
Mm.
surprised if it changes. Like maybe they remove one or tone it down a little bit. But overall, I do like the fact that she's weaker against dive DPS characters, or tanks that dive, because she's supposed to be like she's supposed
Yeah, of
for me. It's
course.
like I felt like she was supposed to be like Zenyatta, but had a sleep dart. It's like you're not supposed
Hmm.
to be able to kill these super. You know what I mean? Like the sleep dart, it was
Yeah, yeah,
there
yeah.
for that, so that she could escape, or I mean, she can make epic plays with sleep too, with nano boosted characters. But generally, I always felt she was designed to. It was designed to help her escape. Now it's just like she didn't have to. She didn't even have to use her sleep
Yeah.
dart. She just kill you, or she uses the sleep dart and kills you without even being damaged. So
Mm.
it's kind of crazy that she was able to do that for a long time. So I think that one is good. It might be a little too drastic, but generally changing Ana, I think is a good thing. I wouldn't be surprised if they drop one of them though. Something will drop.
Okay. Yeah,
So yeah.
that's fair.
Another thing that was changed
Um,
was Winston's shield. So his cooldown for
yeah.
his shield starts when he puts down the shield, versus when the shield ended. So and
So that was a change that they changed that.
yeah,
It's
they
a
did.
reverse basically of something that happened. I think it was on during beta. I can't remember, but yeah, that's how it worked before. And a lot of people thought that Winston had too much shield power. It was up too much of the time.
Yeah, it was. And I think at the time it was made when we could have multiple Winstons. I mean, we had those bubbles that they're
Right,
bubbles
right,
that they're.
right.
It was a crazy time during that time. So yeah, I think that they had to increase the cooldown or for Winston because of that. Now it's a little bit of a different environment, and maybe it's okay to have more shields. I think it's powerful. I think Winston already is in the meta for the dive. The dive comes getting really really popular, and if he gets an extra 2 or 3 seconds on his shield, that's a big deal. His shield's
Yeah.
really really good, especially if you're good at going in and out of it. It's crazy good.
And that also means that you can put it down, preemptively a lot more because
Yeah.
you put it down, you have, it starts, the cooldown starts, and by the time it explodes, you can put another one back up. So it actually changes, I think, the way you play Winston significantly. It's very it's very, very different if you have to save the shield, or if you can put it down just in case. So yeah, that's a significant buff, I feel.
Yeah, I think you can actually have a chance of shielding twice when you're diving, which is a big deal because when I've played Winston or when I watch people play Winston, he definitely is a harassing hero, but he's more of like a sniping harassing hero. He'll go in there. He's pretty much got a timer as to like how much time he can kill something, and then he has to get out of there, right? And the shields
Yeah.
always help extend that period. I get in there. I feel like I have like about 3 seconds to kill that back line, and then if I can't kill that back line, then the team will be back there to help them and try to kill me, and then I have to jump back out. Well, now it's just like I can maybe even get in there, throw down a shield, and then just like be working in and out of the shield, trying to kill the supports while the DPS are trying to kill me or the other tanks are swinging back, and then maybe I can put another one down that extends it a couple more seconds, just so I can get that last kill and then get out of there. So
Mm.
it's really good if you can do that. I mean, for especially with really
Yeah,
really
for
good
sure.
Winston players.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to get a chance to try it. I think it's going to feel good though. If you like Winston and you play Winston, that's the kind of change that you instantly feel. And it's a good one too.
Yeah, it just makes the character a little bit more, I don't know, fluid to play, I
Yeah, that's
guess.
what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Then
What's the
we
next thing?
have yeah, a couple of other little changes we don't necessarily need to go over. Sombra is the main thing is her cooldown is reduced from 6 to 4 seconds for the translocator, which
Really good.
seems really powerful.
It's
She's going to be even
really
more
good.
slippery, like to an extent, like 4 seconds. That's kind of insane.
Yeah, it's
Um,
super fast. I mean, she'll just be back in engagements really, like after you
yeah.
damage her a few times, she'll be back into engagements really quickly.
hmm and then Zenyatta, which you mentioned a couple of times, the Orb of Destruction basically is the ult fire. I mean, his right click is going to have the recovery time reduced to almost half of what it is now, which is significant. And the Orb of Discord is going to be able to target enemies through barriers. So that's also significant.
Yeah, it's huge actually, just because you can always discord any tank that you want, and tanks I feel like take the biggest hit from discord. I mean, Pharaohs do too, but for the generally, like you pretty much make tanks half hit points whenever you put discord on it. So roadhogs, completely get countered by that sort of thing,
Isn't it
and
30% now? I thought it was 30%, the
it
Discord.
probably
Maybe I'm
it's
wrong.
less than 50%, but it just it was just a general
Right, right,
general
right. Yeah.
um,
Feeling.
description of it. Yeah, exactly. So those big tanks that have a lot of hit points, they take a huge hit from this. So I think a lot of folks are going to be playing Zen, especially with the Ana nerfs. It's almost like that's what they wanted. They just want people to go back and play Zen, and that's good. I mean, Zen hasn't been played much in a long time. just the dive composition lately has just been a little bit better with Ana, and Lucio. Lucio is just always good. I feel like they need to do something
Of
about
course.
Lucio, guys. He just played such a high percentage of the time, so it's only like one
Mm,
healing spot that's rotated, and Zen's always just a little bit under Ana because they do similar things, except for Ana has even more range on her heal. So,
yeah.
yeah, they had to do something.
Do you think Do you think they'll nerf the speed boost on Lucio at some point? It's his
Um,
defining
it is, but
characteristic, but
it's such a good ability. Like
mm,
it allows for a lot of interesting gameplay, just or even moments, when pushing into CP maps and things like that. The speed boost is yeah, really really important. I mean, it might not be that. It might just be like damage again. They keep nerfing the damage. I think maybe that's where they go. It's tough. He's hard to kill, and the speed is probably one of the most important things in the game. And then so his damage is, I mean, he can do a decent amount of damage, but a lot of people like that aspect of healers is the ability to do a
mm.
little bit, right? So,
Yeah, of course, of course.
yeah, I mean, Mercy's might be, I think a lot of pros might even say Mercy is one of the worst characters in the game just because she doesn't really damage at all.
Mm.
She's just purely a buffer. So, yeah, it's going to be tough, but Lucio, I think right now I would think is the most played hero in the game.
Yeah, it's funny because he's not like flashy. He's
Hmm.
cool, but he's not flashy. Like he's not the Anna that everyone thinks, oh, she does this and that, or like the
Yeah.
diva, but he's just always there. He's a staple of almost every game. So,
Yeah, and he's hard to
um,
kill, so he literally is just constantly healing. Maybe you make him easier to kill. Maybe his healing on self is less or
yeah,
something like that. I mean, it's kind of awkward and hacky feeling, but
yeah,
it's it's I feel like they have to do something to him.
yeah. Well,
If
we'll
you want
see.
if you want other guys to be played. I mean, maybe they don't want anybody else to be played.
And then there's another change that was just announced that Sombra's hacked health kits
Oh yeah,
are
yeah.
going to be viewable through walls for her teammates, which was
Hmm.
suggested on the Battle.net forums. And was it Jeff Goodman? Someone on the team said
Yeah.
that they were going to implement this on the next PTR update. So I mean, that's cool. I'm not sure.
We'll see.
It's going to mean that her teammates are going to be able to go to the health kits more easily. She's going to be more desirable in the team, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean it's a nice thing for sure. Instead of you having to vocalize that to your team, it's like, hey, it's that med kit that's in that building that's in the back of trying to describe it like that is really really hard. So having that revealed to them, it will be super beneficial to your teammates as well as Zombra just charging her ult too. That's going to be great actually for ult. So she should be getting just the EMP a lot more because of that.
Right. I didn't think about that since everyone's going to go and get them.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it really feels like the beginning of season 4 is a chance for them to shuffle things around a lot more significantly than they did in during season 3. So that's probably a good way of approaching it. And then season 4 has started.
Yeah.
I haven't played at all. Have you had a chance to play? I don't think that
My
it,
son and
you
I
know.
have been still doing placements, and I think we're like we're 4-4 right now. So it's been going
Okay.
so with it. We just again, it just depends on the type of team we have, and if we've been playing Pharah and Zarya a lot lately, just so we can at least ult combo together. And have that swing games. And it has completely won us games. So that's why
Of
we've been doing
course.
it so much. But
Who plays Pharaoh?
I play Pharah and he plays Zarya,
Okay.
and he's getting good at Zarya. So that's really really good. I suck at Zarya. There's no way I could play Zarya. My tracking ability is just
And
not there.
and then we have Scott Mercer, who gave us a little bit of data
Oh
on
yeah.
the rankings for season 3, which I was super excited about. Basically, what he said was that, okay, I'll just give you the numbers in case you didn't see the post. He gave player distribution in the different ranks. So bronze is 6%, silver 22%, gold is 34%, platinum 23, diamond 10, and then master 3 and grandmaster less than 1%. And that felt like a little bit of what I was hoping for months and months, because when you look at Reddit and YouTube, and it really feels just like any other game like this. It really feels like half the population is trying to get to master or in master, and of course that it's not the entire player base that's in master, but it definitely felt like it was more than 3% of the population that was in master, and it felt like platinum was the middle of the middle of the pack, basically the median. That's a statistical term. I'm not sure it means exactly the middle, but anyway, platinum, since it's the middle of the ranks, could arguably be considered, the average level of the player base. And this shows that it absolutely is not. The middle is somewhere around mid to high gold. What Scott Mercer said was that the median maximum skill is not 2,500. It's a little above 2,300. So 2,300. So that means that if you're around 2,300, you're roughly on the median. And when you look at the stats sites, which I have been looking at very obsessively in season 3, I guess they only get people who are interested in those things, because the percentiles that they gave you when you were around early gold or mid gold were something like the 80% percentile, something like that, 80th percentile, something like that. So it felt like 80% of the population was better than you. Clearly, that's not the case. So I guess it made me feel a little bit better about my placement, and I think they should do something about those numbers and the perception for those numbers. I mean, we've said this multiple times that they should do something, but seeing this convinces me even more that they should, because it addresses the exact issue we've been talking about all season, which is you feel like crap when you're around those, whatever SR. Yeah. Well, and not even Elo Hell. Like, it's currently, if you're, platinum, diamond, master, and grandmaster represent less than 40% of the it's like a third, roughly, of the player base. And so everything else is 2/3. So it just like in Hearthstone, you get, you're part of the 50% best players. That would be a positive thing, I think. So there you go. Season 3 data.
I mean, we didn't get that data from Hearthstone for a while either. So telling us exactly where we fall. But I know what you mean, though. At least, are you saying like maybe put something in the game to indicate like maybe what percentage you are, or are you?
Yeah, I think so. I think in this case, I mean, maybe the people in silver would be bummed that they're in the top third of the player base, and gold is a full third of the player base, so it's a very it varies greatly. But I don't know. I don't know exactly what the solution is, and I'm sure that the Overwatch team will come up with a much more clever solution than I could. But what strikes me is that Diamond, Master, and Grandmaster represents less than 15% of the total player base, right? And that is definitely not the perception we have in the community, or at least that's not how I feel it's perceived. So addressing that, I think, would be a positive thing, showing that no, not everyone is in diamond or above. So if basically what it means when you look at this is that if you make it to plat, it's really not bad at all, right? Plat is
Great.
clearly
It's
the higher, the upper half of the skill ranking in the population, more than upper half. So that means that when you're in gold, you're like the average, and if you get to higher gold, then you're actually better than most players in the world. And that is not the perception you have, right? It's like if the perception, because it's like 7 ranks and platinum is the fourth one, people think that platinum is the average player skill, and that's not the case. So that that difference between the perception and the reality, I think, should be addressed somehow. I don't know how, but it would be positive for all of these issues we've been talking about of feeling like crap when you're not in platinum or diamond.
I mean, I guess one thing you could do is, one thing you can. I'm not sure if it's better or worse, but you can change the delineations of these cutoff points, right? Like bronze, silver, gold. Maybe you have more. I personally, I like this kind of thing. I like having like bronze, silver, gold, and platinum more so than like rank 25, rank 24, 20, 23.
Yeah. Oh,
like
of course.
Hearthstone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but maybe you add a few more, and because I think the perception that you're talking about has a lot to do with just the conversations that happen in the community on Reddit or wherever, and I don't know if that's like Blizzard's fault. It might be just because the vocal community happens to be the more hardcore community.
Of course. No, of course that's the case. But it's the same in Hearthstone. If you look at
absolutely.
the Hearthstone community, if
Totally.
you didn't have that little reward card or summary card at the end of the season in Hearthstone, you would always feel like getting to level 15 means you're the worst player in the world, or rank 12 is crap and isn't worth anything. But because they tell you, well, hey, you're among the 25 best players in the world, you're like, oh, well, that's not too bad. But it's a different system. It's that's
we had the similar thing.
Yeah,
like
I don't have
rank 12 was actually top 70%, which is, that's shocking, right? Like in Hearthstone. So it's a similar thing to what you're talking about. I do know what you're talking about. It's just I don't know how you do that. Yeah. It would. I think the best way to do it, honestly, is to have like a tournament mode, right, or a tournament system that actually buckets people into different, maybe different places, and then maybe those buckets are equal percentages, or I'm maybe something like
I don't know.
that way you could feel like, okay, this is, I'm actually in the top 50, if you clear that if you clear the 50 percentile, then you feel like, okay,
but
you qualify for something.
I don't even think we need to go that far. As I said, I think these numbers, as a starting point, these numbers show that the perception is already skewed, right? Okay. Because my perception was that plat, the midway point was mid-plat.
Yeah.
Maybe 2,700.
Yeah, me too.
Right? Yeah. And so already, and maybe it's because I'm in gold, so I would be affected by that, perception of the midway point. Maybe people who are in silver or in diamond really don't care about any of this. But it does feel like already the numbers we have don't fit the perception we have. So maybe trying to communicate the reality of the situation of the rankings will already help. And then maybe there are other things to do and other ways of helping for, that are more drastic. But this seems like a pretty straightforward, putting together the perception and then those numbers is easy enough to straightforwardly explain what the actual ranking and your place in the ranking is. So
okay. Yeah.
Anyway.
So maybe it is displaying a percentage that we see on some of these sites, just giving you a straight up percentage. Because, doesn't what's some of the sites that actually have the stats?
Overbuff, Master
yeah.
Overwatch.
Don't they have the percentage that you are?
Yeah. That's what I was saying, and it usually puts you in the so in this season I went up to about the median, right? So I would be about, I don't know, maybe top 52%, something like that. And on those sites I was usually top 80% or top 70%, something like that, which it's demoralizing if you think you're in the bottom 30% of the thing after all of the effort, and and you climb to gold. And I can't imagine, if you're in silver, I'm guessing those sites tell you, if you're high silver, I'm guessing those sites tell you that you're bottom 10%, when in reality you're maybe bottom 20,
Yeah.
you're
Okay.
more of the 20-25%. So that's what I mean. And the sites, the stats sites, don't have an accurate representation of those percentiles because they don't have the Blizzard data. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, so I think you got something there. They could just put your general winning percentage on
Maybe.
there. They'll probably make the argument though that it'll make you feel bad if you're too low, so they don't want that to be on.
That's
you know
true.
what I mean? That's their typical.
Of course. Yeah.
reasoning
Of
point.
course. I think that's true. But the thing is, maybe for people below gold, there is that issue. But for, I think most people already have that sentiment of where they're placed. And usually the sentiment is that they're placed lower than their actual placement. So I don't know. I mean, we've already spent too much time on this, but it was interesting to look at the actual numbers and how they didn't fit the imaginary numbers that we were constructing in our heads.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, why don't we move on, and why don't we thank our patrons that that are supporting the show right now, and you guys are the people that help make this show happen. So big thanks to our producers, LVE and Dot Game, as well as a few of our other patrons too: Jason M, Kyle, Michael F, Zach H, Andrew H, Anthony H, Croak, and Daniel C. Thanks so much for doing that, guys. And yeah, I mean, you guys have been amazing. We've had some patrons for a very, very long time, and it always makes us feel good that we have that kind of support for the show.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as we always say, this is our actual job.
Yes.
So getting some money for it is always,
nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to
So really, thank you
for something that you do. Yeah, absolutely.
So thanks a lot to all of the wonderful people who choose to support us via Patreon.
Yeah, and you can check out the Patreon, guys, at patreon.com/Overwatchers if you're interested. And we got a lot of cool rewards and milestones there, so check it out if you think we're doing a good job. All right, community. So what kind of community news we got here, Patrick?
So only a few. It's not an enormous amount this week, but the one that struck me the most was, I'm sure you saw this, the Miro Winston. It was at during Apex.
Ilios.
And so, yeah, on Ilios, what happened the show notes are always available at amove.tv, and you can go check it out for yourself. But basically, what happened was that Miro, who's very well known for his Winston,
best Winston,
was on Ilios. I'm sorry?
He's the best Winston in the world, for sure. That guy.
Well, absolutely. And so they were on Ilios on the actually it doesn't matter. It was he got his ult and started chasing a Mercy outside of the map. He jumped around, pushed the Mercy while he was being targeted by a Pharah who actually direct hit him 3 times. And he kept jumping during his ult with his boost to push the Mercy farther and farther to the limit of the map, to the point that she actually died because she fell off the map, not because she was too low, but because she was too far from the play area. So he pushed her like this and managed to return to the play area without dying himself, thanks to his boost during the ultimate. This is completely insane levels of game sense, knowledge, and execution. It's crazy.
Yeah, and just for folks that might be having a hard time visualizing it, it was Lighthouse, I believe. The Ilios Lighthouse, where you have the point and then you have the vast ocean on the other side. Basically, that Mercy and Fair, they were in the vast ocean, basically way out there. In fact, she was out there, trying to hit him from even, from that, just over the water. And then, yeah, Miro just dives out there, hits her super far, just trying to kill her too with a gun, but hits her all the way out there. And then he's like falling to his death, and all of a sudden he just propels off of the air and comes all the way back. And it was, yeah, that was one of those moments where you're like, wow, man, that
It's
is
crazy.
yeah, that's pro level. That's why these guys are
It's
pros.
like, do you think he actually
Crazy.
intended to specifically do this? Like,
I think he
it
did,
feels like the kind
actually.
of thing that happens, but yeah.
I mean, I think he's so good and he knows the characters so well that, yeah, I actually think he knew, like, he intentionally did it. And maybe there was even some little trick that he did that was able, like, maybe he was able to refresh it really, even a little bit faster,
Mm.
because I didn't, we didn't get a chance to see his point of view. But that's the pros. They know all the little tricks, like, McCree doing his high noon just to reload, just to shoot again. Like, people will cancel their high noon just to shoot their guns again because they have a reloaded clip. Like, they know all these little tricks and I think maybe there was a trick there too, but
Mm.
it's something I've never seen before, for sure. Never
Yeah.
seen somebody jump
With
from the
the
abyss like that. It's
it
crazy.
yeah. I mean, when you look at the clip, it's like you have the Farah that keeps hitting him like three direct hits, I think, and it's like he's how is he surviving? It's like at some point you can feel the Farah hitting him and is like, yes, I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna protect the Mercy, and then Mercy dies, and it's like you can almost in the scene see the disappointment of Farah go abandoning all hope. It's like, oh, whatever. You can't fight these kinds of things. It's crazy. So yeah, definitely go check it out. It's
It's one,
absolutely
it's one
insane.
of those amazing plays. The casters, you're like, well, okay, Miro's just jumping out to his death. Oh
Yeah.
my God, he's back! Oh, this is crazy. Yeah, it was pretty epic.
Yeah. And then we have the presentation that Jeff Kaplan did during the Dice Summit,
Yeah.
which is a developer conference, basically, where he talked for about 20 minutes, I guess, about the world building of Overwatch and how they approached it and what their goals were and how they tried to make the world appealing and inviting and coherent and what challenges they found, especially given their history in building different kinds of world and how they found interesting things to portray in the real quote unquote world on the real Earth when all of their other games are in much more fantasy or sci-fi settings. So this is a really interesting talk. I would encourage you guys to go check it out if you're interested in the game development process. And it's just Jeff Kaplan is always a cool person, and that's why I love BlizzCon, because BlizzCon is giving you insight into the way they think, the reasoning they go through, their development process in general, and this is just a little bit more of that. So
Yeah.
go check that out if you're interested.
And Overwatch won the design of the year or game of the year from the standpoint of game design, I believe, at the
Yeah,
Dice event too.
Summit. Yeah,
Yeah, the Dice Summit. What other
yeah. I
developer?
mean,
What other director gives a shout out to their subreddit while he's giving speeches and stuff like that? Only Jeff Kaplan. That's really, really cool.
yeah. I mean, it's really an interesting way the Blizzard developers have evolved now. I mean, obviously everyone has heard about the rap song that Ben Brode
Oh
did
my
for
gosh.
Journey to
Yes.
Ungoro. And I mean, people I hope remember or know that I've worked for Blizzard, so I have a special relationship with the company. But there was also a video released of basically a promo video for recruitment. They're always trying to get more people, and they were talking about the what makes Blizzard great. It was just released today, I think, or yesterday, and it's very. I mean, you could talk about what makes Blizzard not great. I'm sure there would be things to say about it as well, if you want to be completely honest. But what makes Blizzard great is unique, and I think it's reflected in that relationship that the development teams, some of the development teams, better, more or less successfully, but they're building with the communities, and it's not completely unique. You have some development teams that have these kinds of relationships with their communities as well in other companies, but I think at Blizzard, it's really being implemented in a way that is successful and interesting. So this little shout out that Kaplan gave to the subreddit is just one other example of that. So yeah. Anyway, go check that out. It's a really good presentation.
Okay, you have a job simulator here.
Yeah, I don't know that we want to discuss it. Actually,
Okay.
it's just that Job Simulator implemented a Overwatch themed mod, which is kind of funny. It's like, if you know Job Simulator, it works the same way, and it's just fake Overwatch stuff happening in the context of Job Simulator.
Oh, really?
It's just, yeah.
That's funny.
Like you're at your desk and you can play with different types of things that simulate the weapons from Overwatch. It's just dumb fun. But yeah, no, I mean, between this and Overwatch has really become like a complete phenomenon in every aspect of the gaming industry, from the players to the community to the way it influences the other games and the other developers. Everyone's looking at it now, to the in a way that hasn't happened in a while, I suppose. And just like Zelda, the latest one on Switch, is going to be a seminal game for game design in the next few years. I think Overwatch is going to be looked at in many different ways by game developers and the community for how they managed to achieve what they managed to achieve. So anyway,
I'm still waiting for the other aspects of the IP to grow some more. Just the comic, or the graphic novel and the movie too, or one thing I didn't mention was the animated short. This one, I hope that wasn't the animated short or the next animated short, because that was not the quality that we're used to. Just these moving stills and things like that. So I hope.
No, I really hope so.
Yeah. Wait. What was that? You hope it is, or you hope?
No, I hope it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I hope this is not. But I don't think it is. I think people know. I think this is something that they put together to to put together something quicker than the usual. Mm-hmm. Just like on World of Warcraft, you have these kind of things which are really cool, but they're not the full CG movies. I mean, I really hope this isn't it. If we get some on top of the CG movies, it's cool. If the CG movies become this, it's not cool, but I don't think that's the case. And we did get mentioned that we're going to get more lore-y stuff in the coming months, and they're still working on it, obviously. So
hopefully we'll get some more details soon on that. But yeah, so why don't we move on to esports? With esports, Apex obviously still going on, and they're at the point where they're determining semifinalists now. So it's top 8 are battling it out in 2 groups. And the first group that was shown this past week was Envious's group, which is the last Western team. I think last episode that we had, there were, I think all 4 Western teams were still officially in it. But unfortunately, after groups, only Envy were the only ones that ended up making it out of top 8 with some pretty epic finishes too. Yeah, I mean, some of the teams had some good, like C9 had a good showing. He's just a little bit too little, too late, unfortunately. But so Envy, a lot of people were excited about Envy going in. They were in a group with Lunatic High and Kongdu Unsua. They ended up losing 0-3 to Lunatic High in the first round, and it's double elimination each of the groups. And then yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday they ended up losing to Kongdu Unsua 1-3. So they got knocked out of the tournament yesterday, which is really, really unfortunate. They're struggling right now. I mean, the meta just doesn't fit their roster right now. So the dive comp is what's super, super popular, super powerful. Most of the Korean teams are running it. Nanoboost Genji is like a common occurrence right now. It's back to that in Nanoblade. And with Envy, they just don't have a Genji player. They don't have anybody that can play those roles. Even Tracer. Tracer's very popular on a lot of the maps too. So this is the first time Envy's not had a roster that was very conducive for the meta, and so we're starting to see some holes there. And we'll have to see what they ended up doing. Will some of their players have to just practice some more on characters like Genji? But right now, they're trying to figure out ways to counter the dive comp without actually playing dive comp, and it doesn't look like it's been working. I mean, it's basically been two weeks. Last stage of groups too, they got swept. So they've won like maybe 1 out of their last 9 games. So that's obviously something that's a bit alarming. So we'll hopefully they'll come home, they'll regroup. They've been gone for a while now. So I think they need just some practice time and some refocusing. Everybody needs that.
But it can't be easy as well, going to a foreign country for weeks at a time in such a stressful environment. Certainly, there's some, there's the away disadvantage that must show as well. So
yeah, and the other side of the bracket for that particular group, Runaway has really been the surprise of the whole group. Runaway was one of those teams that barely made it into the playoffs, and they were arguably the worst team out of the top 8, or maybe the 2 of the worst teams in the top 8, and they are just they've been playing unbelievable. Like they're coming out of nowhere for a lot of people, and they ended up 3-1ing Kungdu Uncia, and then ended up beating Lunatic High, who was the favorite, 3-2. So I feel like Runaway is that dark horse right now to win the whole thing. We'll see how long it goes, but I've really enjoyed watching them. They're like my new favorite team in Apex. Partially because I just like one of their players is like he cracks me up after every single match, because he's one of those players that just freaks out like when his team wins. And he'll jump up and down, or he'll tackle his just go and almost tackle his teammates or whatever. But no, but it's Runner. Anyways, Runner, after that last match, he like jumps up and he breaks the light above him, and the light's like falling. He was like holding it up the entire time. It was so hilarious. But no, anyways, if you're watching OGN, obviously these are spoilers, but Runaway is going to be moving on to. He's the first semifinalist in the bracket, and then Lunatic High will be playing Kungdu Uncia again just to see who makes that second spot, and then the other group will be played, just the following week. So that's kind of rounding out. Maybe in the next 2 weeks, Apex will finally come to a close, and then maybe we'll see some of the top teams mixed up, with some of the North American teams that we see currently in Carbon Series, which right now is going on. 6 teams. I think I mentioned it the previous show. And right now, the only thing to really mention is that Hammer Esports, which used to be Hammer Esports because there's big news with them, has just been dominating just the entire series. They haven't lost. They're 6-0. They've been winning matches easily, to be honest. So I feel like we have another new NA team that's really rising and really ready for the next challenge, like the next tier, and waiting to just be in the same event with some of these other teams. But that Hammer Esports roster was acquired by Luminosity Gaming. It was announced 2 days ago, and they are now LG Evil. And then the previous roster is now LG Loyal. So Luminosity actually has 2 rosters now, which is really interesting, given that most teams can barely even get 1 roster, much less 2. So it's a great pickup. I actually thought TSM was going to try to pick them up, just because TSM's still sitting with no team, and Hammer. We had Jake on the overview like a couple times, like in the last couple weeks, and he's fantastic. He's a fantastic player, and he seems to be a fantastic leader and captain too for that team. So I think they're on the rise. I'd like to see them play against just the Rogues and the Misfits and the Nips and just whatever that next tier is, and see how they do, because they've just been dominating this tier. It's not even close. Real quick bit of player news. Shatter, for those of you that watch his stream or know him from a lot of different YouTube videos, he's really, really famous for Genji play. He joined Team Liquid, so he's been playing pretty well. He's been there for maybe a few weeks now, maybe a couple weeks now, and it's taken some time, but I think he's starting to finally gel with the team. I mean, the team's been changing a lot too, so Team Liquid's kind of been in flux. It's been in flux for a while now, I feel like, but Shatter seems to be settling in though, and it's a lot. It's pretty cool for a lot of his fans. He has a lot of fans. Too Easy leaves Bench Boys, and you probably didn't even know that he started Bench Boys, but after leaving FaZe, he started a new team that was consisted of actually a few guys that were pretty big, like Crew, that were from bigger teams before. They looked pretty good too. A lot of people were super hyped about Bench Boys because Too Easy's famous for putting together great teams. He's actually really good about putting together teams and then leaving the teams like at some point. So he's done that a couple times now, and then he's leaving it now. But his reasoning this time around was that he's looking for a bigger team. He just wants to be part of a bigger team, and so he's looking for opportunities for that. And then lastly, Hardblue, who's also another big streamer and formerly of Complexity, is trying out for NRG. And a lot of people are hyped up about that since IDDQD just joined NRG maybe about a month ago or 3 weeks ago. Now Hardblue, another big streamer, could potentially be on there, and that team would, they already have Seagull, but with IDDQD and Hardblue, like no question would be like the giant fan favorite, in terms of streaming and things like that. So it'd be kind of cool to see. I think it's always nice when you have that huge fan favorite that's in tournaments. Particularly good when they're doing well, and NRG's struggled a lot, obviously. So we haven't quite experienced that, but Harblue's a fantastic Roadhog player, and maybe one of the best, to be honest, and definitely one of the best in NA, but maybe one of the best, period. And it could be a really good addition there. We'll have to see how the rest of the roster kind of plays around it, because I'm not sure what people would play, but theoretically it'd be pretty fun to see, at least as a fan. So yeah, just some player news there. And then lastly, it was announced and I think Slasher actually broke the news initially, but then ESPN, I posted the article from ESPN saying that Blizzard, it's confirmed at least that Blizzard is looking for $2 to $5 million for teams to buy in to the Overwatch, or at least that's the range of the buy-in that they're looking at. And it's even said that the LA spot, the LA city, will be anywhere from 10 to 15. So it's kind of like, I guess it's kind of what people were thinking, but I don't know. What do you think about that? You think that's high?
Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know how these things work.
Right.
But I mean, it feels like a significant investment when you're looking at the kind of organizations that are like, if you're going to be buying in with $2 to $5 million, it's a big machine that you're putting together, right? It's not like you're paying you only have to pay your players and the facilities and all of this. Like it has to be something you're going in with a lot of cash and a lot of investment, and then the major markets like LA have been, what we were hearing was even a little bit higher than triple the $5 million. Yeah. I think one of the sources from the article is citing one of the spots being valued at $30 million. So I mean, it would make sense that some of the smaller things, cities would be less than the bigger ones, but yeah, regardless, even for if you want to start a team from a small city, $2 million minimum is what it seems. Maybe a little bit less if it's a tiny place, but they're not going to have an infinite number of them. They're going to have a number of cities, and that's it. What strikes me is that, it's not just, I guess, I don't know the kinds of amounts that are invested in the existing teams. The maybe there are a few ones that are bigger that could afford that kind of cash, but it seems to me that this is a significantly higher amount that you need to invest from what we're seeing now in those esports. I don't know exactly how the other games work, but it doesn't feel like games like Heroes of the Storm and Overwatch command that kind of cash already. This is another level, right?
Yeah.
That's how it feels like.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, and it's one of those things where it's completely for the future. It's completely
Yeah.
for 5 years down the road, and 2 million could be super cheap. Like who knows? The revenue for a league like this could be as high. I mean, you could probably be making or be 5x 10x your investment after about 5 years, maybe even 10 years if all this is successful. So I mean 2 million could be actually be super cheap, but right
Mm.
now it does look super expensive for just the current environment. That's where a lot of people are just kind of holding their breath, and we're just all hopeful that this league
Yeah.
does work out, because that's a lot of money. And I think it's really important that the people that get into it, and I think Blizzard is, the message from Blizzard is kind of probably a combination of, assuring them that this is a long-term type of thing, or trying to make them understand at least that this is a long-term type of thing. You're not going to see this invest, ROI on the first year, maybe not even 2 years,
Mm.
maybe not in 3 years, but you know, in 5 years, in 10 years, you could be seeing it, in tenfolds, that sort of thing. So that kind of pitch is very hard to sell to folks that have not been in the sports industry. Like they don't even understand like how this works. And I think that's one of the
And some
reasons
people,
why. That's probably one of the reasons why I think a lot of sports organizations are interested, or they're able to kind of sell that idea to them versus
Mm.
just some other organizations that never even been in any kind of competitive industry, or less investing in some kind of competitive industry.
Yeah. And I mean, the original article does mention as well that these numbers are seem too high for some people because the game, unlike League of Legends or CS:GO, isn't proven as a spectator's esports yet. It's very young. It doesn't have the kind of, it doesn't drag the kind of crowds that the others do, which is normal because it's young. But you can get those kinds of prices for um, games like League of Legends or CS:GO because they're already huge esports. So there is a question mark here. Yes, it could be a big investment for the future, but as you said, if it becomes successful, then awesome, you've made a lot of money. But we don't know that it will, right? We are all very hopeful, and the signs are relatively positive. But if it doesn't, you still need to convince people to invest that kind of cash. So I don't know. Just to be clear, this is the buy-in, meaning you need to pay it once to
Yep.
Blizzard to get the franchise for that given city, and then maybe if you want to sell it, then you talk with Blizzard, but you probably want the person who's buying it to pay you back that kind of cash, or maybe more or less depending on how well it's doing.
It's
Right?
like
That's the
it's like having the what would be equivalent to like a
you buy the
registration fee
team basically. You
for
buy,
like a
yeah.
country club or something like that, for some kind of club, right? You reserve your spot, you have your spot, you pay your your dues to or whatever, but you have that giant initial buy-in that you have to
Right.
do, and it gives
And you
them
buy
some
in for
capital.
a specific town, for
Yeah,
in
yeah,
this
you buy
case a
into a specific
specific team,
city.
so a specific
Hmm.
city.
Hmm.
So of course, if you're going to be buying LA, it's going to cost you more because it's more popular, it
The
drives
market, the
more,
market's bigger, yeah.
yeah, than if
And
you buy, I don't know, Paris, Texas. Paris, France is obviously going to be more
there's
popular than that.
Texas.
I don't know, I was looking for a small town.
I think there is a Paris, Texas.
There is.
Yeah, I've driven
I
through.
know there is. So.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, the market for, or at least the initial buy-in for LA, I feel just those bigger markets, I feel like is even hard. Like that's a tough sell. Like having somebody
Yeah.
pay 15 to 30 million, whatever it is, for something that you're literally going to get nothing for for at
Yeah.
least a couple
For a few
years.
years at least.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm.
that's
Well, that's an investment. That's how it works. I mean, it's different from regular sports because you always have, visibility on the popularity of the thing. Here it's very different, but I don't know. That's how investments work, right?
it
You
is.
you you pay money for something and you hope you're gonna return on it. You're gonna get a return on it. But I guess, yeah, as you're saying, the difference is we don't know that it's gonna bring you anything.
Yeah,
So
and it's still fairly new. This whole the esports industry much less organized leagues, like sports, organized leagues that are modeled after sports leagues. It's a fairly new thing still. So I think that's why there's a lot of hesitancy, and people, at least the community, we're definitely very, very anxious because we want it to succeed. If it succeeds, then this will be revolutionary. This will change. I mean, this could be like the next stepping stone or next, step cleared.
Why is it
esports.
different? Why is it different from League of Legends or CS:GO though? How is it different?
It's structured differently. I mean, so League of Legends is more. I guess, how would you explain it? It's definitely more of a custom type of league that has aspects that you've seen with gaming leagues in the past, or just it's hard to explain. Like, things that they came up with are just fairly new, but they're not. They're unique to just gaming. You know what I mean? Like the concepts that they have. So the teams started off as these branded teams, and they bought in as branded teams. It's not locale based, like this league is. And I mean, the buy-ins were not even close to this amount. I think Blizzard's going to be more heavily involved in the player, salaries and things like that too. I think that's going to be a bigger deal. I don't think the rev share.
So it's closer to. It's closer. I'm sorry. It's closer to actual sports.
Mm-hmm. It's very.
It legitimizes the thing. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if it should legitimize it, but it is revolutionary in the fact that we're doing essentially a traditional sports structured league in gaming, which has never been done before. And I mean, we're talking about combines, and maybe one day drafting will be, permissible. And then we could be talking about drafting players, and things like that. When have we ever talked about that in esports?
Well, I show my lack of knowledge of sports because all of these words you're saying mean nothing.
Well, drafting meaning like, you're picking individual players that play on you have to play on my team because I drafted you. Versus, these kind of guys came together, and then these 6 guys then are picked, are sponsored by a company, that sort of thing.
So drafting just like in Heroes of the Storm, I see. Okay, that makes sense to me now. Like when you start a game pro.
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. But yeah, so we'll have to see how that. I mean, again, it's more and more, at least a little bit more details. It's not a lot of details, but we'll get in a little bit. Nate did an interview too in Korea that didn't really give us too many new things, but did talk a little bit more about, just the team's rev sharing. When they buy into it, they're basically going to be getting, a large portion of the rev share, that the league itself will be monetizing. So, I think that's the part where they can try to sell on people because, the teams themselves, because of the market, right? That's why there's a different price tag for each of the cities. They'll have their own ability to try to, generate revenue, with their own brand, but Blizzard itself as a league will be generating probably the majority of the revenue for a good amount of time, I would imagine, given that they're going to be sponsors for the leagues and things like that, and maybe even TV deals and things like that. So all the teams will be partaking in that. That's kind of what the buy-in gives them,
Well, we're still waiting for that to happen. It will be September if all goes well. They're saying they're on track for September, so we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully we get some more news like in a month or two, because I haven't really been talking to any of the team owners or anything like that. But last I heard, like, nobody knew anything. So hopefully they know more now. All right, well, I think that's it for the show today, Patrick. So I think we did a pretty good job without Garrett, right?
Yeah, I hope we made him proud.
Yes,
basically,
he's probably listening right now.
Possibly, yeah. I hope he will, when he listens to this, he thinks they did well. It was okay. It was all right. Or at least, that he ranks us gold, upper gold. So we're at least average, let's say.
We can feel better about ourselves now that we know the bell curve distribution.
Yeah, exactly.
We're above average, guys. Yes.
Yay.
No, but why don't we wrap up the show? Patrick, got any shout outs you want to do?
Not really. I mean, we mentioned the Switch a little bit earlier, and if you
Yeah.
want to hear more about the Switch and Zelda, we did an episode of Pixels, my general gaming news show, earlier in the week with our friend Scott Johnson, and we did that. We covered basically the Switch, Zelda, and a bunch of other things. If you want to listen to that, just go to FrenchSpin.com, and the show is called Pixels. Actually, you can just search for it now in your podcast app. That makes it easier. Check out Pixels, and there are a lot of things to say about that console. So check that out if you want to, and then you can follow me on Twitter or Facebook. I'm Patrick. I'm sorry, I'm not Patrick on both.
Are you Patrick or not Patrick? I can see the
Gets
listeners
so
right now.
confusing, right?
Exactly. That's the whole point, right? No,
Exactly.
the Switch. I've had people just playing like 20 hours a day. Like I know people that have been playing
Really?
Zelda like 20 hours a day until they finish it. So it's pretty
Hmm.
amazing. I haven't gotten a chance to get one yet, but I'll probably wait till a little bit longer, and maybe until a few more titles come out, and then I'll probably be forced to go and get it and try it out and have a good time with it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting game. Lots of things to discuss.
Yeah, totally. For me, just a shout out to you, of course, Patrick, for doing the show with me. Everybody that's watching and then
Oh, thank
eventually
you.
listening, having you back, man, it's good. It's good. And if you're interested in Hearthstone or maybe a little bit more in Overwatch, I do a couple other shows, Value Town and The Overview. You can find on twitch.tv/ChanmanV or youtube.com/ChanmanV. The VODs are there too. And you can follow this show on Twitter at OverwatchCast, and you can tweet at us at all times. One of us will be answering. You can't tell, so it's like a triple-headed Hydra. You have to guess which one of us is answering it, but we always have some great conversations on Twitter with the fans. It's a lot of fun. Email us at mailoverwatchers@gmail.com if you have a question you want to get in next week, and then subscribe to us on iTunes. And you can actually search for Overwatch or Overwatchers, and you'll find us on iTunes. And then all the VODs for this are on youtube.com/AMoveTV. That's going to be it, guys, for Overwatchers. So for Patrick and myself, Chris or ChanmanV, wherever you want to call me, we'll see you next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. All right. I guess that's